Go Get It Nation. What is going on? You know what's going on. It is 3 o'clock Eastern time. It is Tuesday afternoon, and that can only mean one thing. It is time for another no holds barred, no script, no safety net conversation with someone you need to know. You are on Ringside here, and I want to introduce to you my guest. I mean, this guy is an audio producer. He is a voiceover talent. He has another gig as the TV promo producer for Blaze TV. But the reason why he is here is because we wanted to give you the opportunity to have a conversation, get the perspective from someone who is doing the slicing, the dicing, the mixing, and the fixing of all your audio files that you're sending. And let me introduce to you my longtime friend, the one, the only, the immortal, Mr. Ed Bishop.
Quite an intro. I've never had one that good before. Thank you.
Well, just make sure that check clears in the mail.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hang on a second. My little room here on Clubhouse took a dump. Let me make sure to get that going. Stand by. Okay, now we started the room. I don't know what happened there, but we got it going. We are streaming on Clubhouse. Sorry for the drop there, guys. We are on LinkedIn Live. We're on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube Live. I would encourage you to say hello, Go Get It Nation. Let me know you are here. Let Ed know you're here. Put your name in the comments. Say hello. We'll give you the requisite shout out and the fist bump. And I will say more than once throughout this discussion, this is your opportunity to get in the know from a real live audio producer. The only folks we're not taking questions from right now are the folks listening in on Clubhouse. I will be hanging out with you guys on the post-game show. So please mute your microphones, Craig and John, right now. Oh, Elaine Dissin, we know her. I think I might be married to her. So, yeah, John, I saw you have your hand raised, but we're only doing an audio feed right now. We'll be having you guys in the discussion at the post-game show. Dylan Walker has joined us. He says, hi, Ed.
What's up?
Dylan is from First Class VO. That is his cool little branding. So, Ed, you and I have known each other, goodness, 20 years?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, like 03, 04, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That just means we're really old. So yeah. I don't know what's going on with Clubhouse, guys, but unfortunately, it's being fussy. So we're not going to be broadcasting on Clubhouse right now. I don't know what the problem is, but we'll figure it out later. But anyway, so we've been in the trenches together in all sorts of capacities. I remember you hanging out in my office the one day, and was that when you were finishing up at Q102?
Yeah, I was done at Q. I was working for myself for a while, and then I was like, you know what, man, let me go out to see Corey and finally meet. That's when we actually first really met. We were just talking shop, and a call came in while I was in your office from a buddy of yours, Lane Massey, was the engineer at YSP.
True.
And happened to just say, hey, our imaging guy just left, and you're like, I'm sitting here with a guy that's kind of on the beach right now. And there's not been a better time for me to be anywhere than that moment in my career. Seriously,
talk about right place, right time. Literally had one of the chief engineers from WYSP radio looking for a production guy, and here is the former production director from another Philadelphia station, the CHR. You happen to be in my office. I just remember saying, I'm going to put you in touch with him. And then you were working there. What was it, like 2 weeks later you started there?
Yeah. I think I got an interview like 3 days later. And then I had to go somewhere for a week. I would have started probably 5 days later, but I had to take care of some things before I could start. I was like, that's just crazy how things work. Going from not knowing anything to, all right, I'm back in the field again. And I didn't have to move. That's a key in radio. If you get to a certain point, I love to move. And then I got to a certain point where I was like, I don't want to move anymore. And I didn't have to. So.
And a real quick hello to Steve Tardio, who has joined us, Charlie Wyrock, Robert Jonathan, David Inahosa, Craig Aycock, and John McBride. Thank you for joining us on the live stream. Elaine hopped over from LinkedIn, and now she's on Facebook. And you got a chance to work for Tim Sabian at that time, I believe.
Tim was a consultant at that time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he was a consultant.
And you worked with, was Howard Parker was the voice, or was Paul still the voice at that point?
Howard Parker was the voice. Yeah, he was the voice for 2 or 3 years, and then it went back to Paul, who was the voice from, obviously in the 90s.
Right.
So they took it back old school, yeah, with Paul Turner too. So Howard Parker, Paul Turner, both of those guys, yeah.
And if you don't know who Howard Parker is, Go Get It Nation, you're not paying attention. He's only one of the most prestigious trailer promo voices out there, and he's been that way for like a decade. And he's probably most famously the voice of ABC.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's Howard, and we mentioned Paul Turner. I got to think in your, experience, you have, shared sessions with a who's who. I mean, give us, just for funsies, some of the guys and gals you've worked with.
Man, some really, really big names. Unfortunately, a couple of them aren't with us anymore. And the first VO person I've ever produced was Brian James. And he was he was on every single station, station in the 90s. And then I worked closely with Chris Crowley.
Oh, sure.
For several years. He's also was a very good friend of mine. And Don LaFontaine, got to work with some of his stuff in the 90s as well. But more recently, it was Howard Parker, Paul Turner. I've been very, very lucky to be able to work with a lot of those guys. And even from back when I was wishing and hoping someday I'm going to be a voice person, I want to do this stuff. I picked up little things from all those guys. Not like I even come close to them, but I'm saying like you pick up little ways to say certain things or different things. So that really helped me being a producer. It transcended into voiceovers as well, So, yeah.
And your digital workstation of choice is Pro Tools?
Yeah, 20. I've been on Pro Tools. Only one I've ever used from 95 to now. So
it's safe to say you know your way around.
Yeah, but I'm also a creature of habit. I learn things new every day. I stumble onto something. I was like, I didn't know I could do that. I probably could have been doing that for 10 years now, because you get working in your mode and you just keep going, and you don't dive that deep into something when you're kind of working a lot. You don't have the time to take the time to learn new things. But yeah, I would say I know Pro Tools pretty well. Yeah.
So Tomaglio has joined us. What's up, Tom? Thanks for joining us, brother. Let me remind all of you guys, Go Get It Nation, this is your opportunity to ask questions of a guy who's producing audio every day, sitting in on sessions, reviewing auditions. If you have a question, if he can help you, communicate better with other audio producers, now is your time to ask those questions. So just fire them up in the comments and we'll tee them up for Ed. Let me ask you this. I mean, what do you find is like the most common way a voiceover guy or gal gets tripped up when they are communicating with an audio producer? What sort of not so good trends are you dealing with routinely?
I find it important for somebody to ask me who they're talking to, like who's the audience that's going to hear what they're doing. I always tell people that, but I want them to be interested in who the audience is, because that's who they're talking to. They're not talking to me. I want that. I have to know what I want, but they have to know, more than what I just want, what the people that are going to hear this, what they're all about. So I think their audience is important. And just, I think friendliness, I think that goes a long way, man. Like you got to have talent, but you could be really, really talented. And if you're cocky or you come off as somebody that just kind of, it's their, my way or the highway, well, it's the highway, because I'll find someone else, and because there's enough people out there nowadays. And that's why
humility is key.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
What about before they even get in the booth with you, or even after the session's over? Are they furnishing auditions to you properly? Are they delivering audio files? Are you seeing some common mistakes or mess ups or tips we can give Go Get It Nation as they're recording their audio?
Yeah, man. I think whenever you submit an audition, always put your name in the title of it, just because some people hear so many auditions, and if you don't slate it at the beginning or you don't put your name in it, a lot of times you don't have time to track that person down and go back and look at all your emails and compare what came in to find out who that is. It's really simple just to include your name in it. And another cool thing to do, which I try to do, I don't always do it because it just takes an extra 2-3 minutes sometimes, and it sounds like a short amount of time, and it is, but sometimes you just don't have time to do it, is to put your metadata into your MP3. You can do it with iTunes, you know, just put your logo in there, put your name and title, so that when they get it and they drag it on their desktop or they open it, it's got your logo, your name, and you can even put email, web address, all that stuff in there. So include all the information you can, not just in the audio itself, but in the title and the metadata.
So it's not, of course, it makes files easier to organize. But what you're also saying is every delivery of an audio file is a marketing opportunity.
Yep. And I think I learned that from you.
It's interesting you said that, because, you know, you have the distinct honor of being the very first member of the Go Get It Express.
Yes.
I mean, how cool was that? I mean, I remember calling you up about 3 years ago, and I said, hey, man, you were in town because you were you live in Texas, but you happen to be in Philly. Yep. And we got together for lunch, and I said, I got this crazy idea. I said, I'm going to start teaching talent how to market themselves. And, you know, since you and me were buds, I said, look, give me the chance to do it with you first. And look at what we went and did.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is, because I was one of those people. I'm like, I can help other people with their branding, like their audio. I produce promos. I promoted radio stations, commercials. I can promote anyone else. I sucked at promoting myself. I'm like, I don't know how to market myself. I'm not good at that, you know? And when I remember you asked me that, and it was at the same time I was thinking, I need to get better at this. And it was, again, another perfect timing thing. So there's a, you know, you always seem to be part of that perfect timing thing here. So we got to make sure we always stay in touch.
Who knows what's going to happen right now? You better go play a lottery ticket.
Exactly. Yeah. After this, I'm going to. Yeah, I remember that, man. And from that point on, I tied everything together, kept all my brands the same. So everywhere you went, that was the biggest thing. My website looked different than my Instagram. My Facebook looked different than LinkedIn, and got everything the same, tidied all that up. And it made me feel better. It made me feel more confident. And I think when I promoted myself, when I would tell people about different things, or like, hey, go to my website, I felt good about it. Before I was kind of like, what do you want? I'll just send you something. And, you know, this way now I'm sending people to places to find out more about me. So, or the other way around, they go there and then they come to me. So yeah, that was all, you know, thanks to Go Get It, man. So
yeah, dude, and you have definitely gone and gotten it. I mean, for sure. You know, the workload has increased exponentially since that fateful day, and obviously you got the brand out there. You're creating content. You got a nice network, and you're hustling. I mean, it's almost cool to say you're not promoting yourself as much as you used to, because you're spending all this time actually getting paid.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's kind of it's been a trickle down, you know, a snowball, I guess you could call it. You know, it just kind of, once it started happening, you know, you finish up a job, you throw it up on social media. That's a quick way to promote it, and it's just like you said, man. It's marketing. Every opportunity you have is marketing. Every communication outside yourself is marketing, no matter what it is.
A reminder, we are here with audio production aficionado, Pro Tools wizard, and fellow voice talent, fellow Go Get It Nation member, Mr. Ed Bishop. And we're on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Having a little issue with Clubhouse today. My apologies for that. But hey, who has questions for Ed? Tee him up. Let's get your audio production, your audio recording, your audio delivery, your session etiquette questions. Well, here, as we speak, Charlie Wyrock asks a question. He says, what is your specialty in VO? Is there anything that you like to do that you haven't done yet?
I'm starting to get into more of that now, which is storytelling, more actually less promo sounding, less commercially, and just talking. And it took a while for me to get decent at that. And I finally feel like now I can tell stories and sound like I'm telling a story I'm talking about, as opposed to it just sounding, I don't know, like I'm trying to, you know. Now it just kind of, it flows. So yeah, I like, when I get a script now, I like it to be something that just kind of is a story, and it reads and it flows like a story. So that's one thing I really like doing now. But there's really video games. I've done a couple of those. Those are fun just because, I don't know, you know, to be an animated character is kind of, I've always, as a kid, I thought that would be cool. And now as an adult, I can actually do that from time to time, and that's always fun, you know. So
Awesome.
yeah, so
Your
video,
specialty in VO is more the promo-y type stuff, you would say?
yeah, it's transitioning now into more commercial stuff. But yeah, I think I had to get the radio out of me, like the announcery commercial sound, and it's a lot harder than you think. You think, oh, yeah, I am just talking. What do you mean just talk? Or, hey, just, instead of so much inflection, just kind of pull back and talk a little. So then when I do it, then I sound like I'm asleep. So it really took a lot of tweaking and a lot of auditions. I mean, thousands of auditions over a 2 or 3 year period, I think really got me in a good spot because I became very familiar with my voice booth and I became very comfortable. And that helped me be me and tell stories. So I don't know, we kind of deviated from the whole question there, but yeah.
It's good. And Jack Davenport has a question. What made Chris Crowley a great voice to work with?
He did nothing but talk. You like, that's it. I have to, put a little into it. Yeah. He could tell you the worst news in the world and you're probably smiling because it sounded so good. Like he's just so easy and he was willing to do anything and he would hook anybody up with whatever they needed. He wasn't fussy about, you went over your page count by a promo or two, or, he was just like, let's link up. What time? 3 o'clock? You got it. And he was just, I don't know, man. And he had this ability to know what you were writing. I mean, at least with me, if I wrote a promo, maybe it's also because I kind of tailored it towards how I know how he sounded too, but he just got it. I would be on a session with him. I barely ever told him how to do it. I might just jump in and say, hey, just for fun, try it this way. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, I never use it the way I asked him to do it. I went and used it the way he did it. And that's a pro, and a natural. That's what made him so good. He was just natural,
Well, I had many a session with Chris because we used to produce up a ton of stations with his voice too. Mm-hmm. And he was a character, man. He was a character. I went to, I have a very vivid, as vivid as I could be with as much as I drank that day, but we went to go see U2 at RFK Stadium. Wow. It was me, him, and do you remember Jim Eckert that used to work at Propulsion?
Yeah.
It was the 3 of us. We went, I don't know how that happened, but we ended up going down to DC and meeting him there and going to see U2, the 3 of us. And we were on the floor. We're probably 10 rows from the stage. And he was a hoot. My face hurt from laughing, from hanging out with that dude. I miss him.
All right. Let me real quick story about him. Just really is a short one.
Yeah.
When I first met him was like 95, 96, and he was in Florida. I was working for Advantage Productions. Brian Lee's another great voice guy that taught me everything with production. Brian Lee took me to meet Chris Crowley, and we went out at a karaoke bar in Florida, and I just got to know Chris, and he sang that coconut song. You put the lime in the coconut.
Oh, yeah, sure.
He sang that one day. I was like, this guy seems pretty cool. And then after a while, we would meet out and do karaoke every couple of weeks and just drunken fools. And then I would just egg him on sometimes. I was like, come on, Chris. He'd be on stage before the song was ready to play. And I'd say 93.3 FLZ. And he'd be like 93.3 FLZ. And the whole place would be like, what? Like, where did
Who is that?
Yeah. Who was, and that station was, we were near Tampa. So when he said it, I think people instantly were like, wait, that's the guy, but it was just, we would just get him going. So he would get out there and just start right over the PA system for karaoke. He'd start doing call letters, WNEW, New York, whatever it was. He was
man, that's hysterical. We used to do similar. Me and Paul used to do the same stuff, get into shtick and mischief. And especially if we were on the road or something for Promax or whatever else. If we were in a hotel room and we had nothing to do and there was a telephone in the room, forget it.
No.
Yeah. I mean, he would call people as like, hey, this is Steve Kingston from Z100 and you've just won $100,000. And because it's Paul on the phone with the big voice, the people on the other end were buying it and we would be hysterical laughing. We're such children, but we got a question here from Go Get It Nation. Dylan Walker asks, he says, when you're going through auditions, what are the things you see and hear that turn you off? Aside from the metadata, what else are you looking for? Any particular audio spec you like to see?
Yeah, of course you want high quality audio. No room echo, you're going to get an occasional car going by. That's home studios nowadays. But I would say one of the things that's most annoying to me, and that kind of puts you at the back of the pile, is bad edits. if you're editing out breaths, that's okay, I guess, but don't edit them out and then let the audio chop together. Like leave that space there, just take the breath out, because otherwise it just sounds fake. It doesn't sound right, and you can't really gauge the flow of an audition if that's happening. The other thing too is, and I'm guilty of this myself when I listen back to some, I have everything I've ever done saved. For some reason, I just have everything. So I can, but it's a good thing sometimes because you listen back, you're like, okay, I have gotten a little better. But when you're doing retakes of a certain line, make sure it matches the previous one, because a trained ear or someone that is listening to a lot of auditions, they can tell when that there's one or two lines that just sound slightly different than the one before, or completely different, but you edited them together and they just don't flow. If you maybe position yourself away from the mic's here, and you happen to move a little in between those takes, and you insert that into that one spot, it's not gonna sound right. And there's nothing wrong with doing that in post-production, but in an audition, I don't think that's good, because it kind of shows that you maybe can't do it all the way through, which a lot of us can't. I'm guilty of it. It takes me several takes, but I think in your audition, you got to make it perfect, as if it's the actual spot.
Do you get talent that over process their audio, compression, reverb? They're just making it too wet.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a bad thing too, unless it's like radio imaging or something, you can get away with that. But for, that's instantly, because you just don't sound real. No matter how good your delivery is, you don't sound like a person when it's over compressed. And these are all things I've done myself. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm very guilty of doing that. There was a point where I remember I thought I needed compression on every single thing I ever did. And, you don't, so.
I can remember at Propulsion, we would require complete raw. We wanted as raw as possible to let our guys do the sweetening and the chopping and the condensing or whatever else. And, because our guys could tell if it was run through some sort of processing. And
I use minimal processing, just enough to kind of bring it together lightly, but by no means do I over process. I probably back in the day I did when I worked in radio, when I voiced everything from those studios. Oh yeah, that's what radio was, but yeah.
Interesting. And John Duffin is here. What's up, John? He said he's dying to learn more. So there's plenty of good nuggets so far. And I'm sure, we'll have time for a few more golden nuggets here. Keep the questions coming. Charlie and Jack and Dylan, those were great questions so far. Robert Jonathan says he's guilty of overcutting breaths and the space in between. Be careful with that. Plus, understand you might be spinning your wheels, dedicating too much time to editing auditions and whatnot. And maybe you can, for auditions versus here's a question, an audition versus an actual session when you're delivering audio. Is there a difference in how raw or how processed or how edited you might send those, one versus the other?
You mean like if I'm actually doing a live audition?
Well, if there's an audition, say someone's doing an audition on a pay-to-play site, or there's an open call with a casting agent, versus you got the gig and you're maybe it's unsupervised and you're doing the recording session on your own. Do you deliver that any differently than you would a quick audition?
No, I don't touch nothing set up in there. And if I'm auditioning people, I want it to sound the way they sounded in their audition. So I would say not to change between either or, because that's what that's what they're judging you on. So if they hire you and now you sound different, that's just that's a bad start. Gotcha. So of the many things you have your paws into, you're doing voiceover, you're doing audio production, you're working for the Blaze. You also have something you have brewing, which I think will be very cool to share with Go Get It Nation. Please do tell. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing. I wish I would have started this a couple of years ago, but it's nothing new to the world. It's podcasting, but just being I'm going to start doing fully produced intros, outros, IDs, everything, audio packaging for podcasts. I've been doing it now for about a year, but I'm launching a website soon, and I'm going to be providing it and marketing it as an actual business. And a lot of people, can get a lot of those anywhere, but I'm trying to make them sound different than radio. And this isn't anything against radio. I came from radio, and But podcasts are supposed to be different than radio. You don't want to put on a podcast and you don't want it to sound just like a radio station. You want a little bit less bells, and unless somebody wants it to be big and, whatever, sure. But you want it to still sound real and just less produced, less processed, something that maybe that they're not getting, almost more like TV audio, like something you might hear on a TV. I'm talking video and audio podcast. But yeah, so I'm getting into to that. And also, I want to start servicing different podcasters. There's a lot of people out there. Joe's chiropractor down the road. He's not a he's just a regular guy that can record his audio, but he doesn't know what to do with it then. He knows chiropractor. He knows that field, and he knows what he's talking about. But to just be able to say, hey, listen, I'll put together an intro for you, an outro, and then I'll edit that up and assemble it for you and throw it back for X amount of money. And then, that guy, that girl, whoever, you get them on a monthly retainer for, a few bucks, and then you get a handful of those, and, that pays your mortgage.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
And I can vouch for Ed because I have hired Ed to produce up some podcast material. If you listen to the One More Round podcast, probably the last 30 episodes I did, I had Ed produce them. He even voiced the intros and the outros for those. And he sliced in, we had some Charlie Toro was in there too. Yep. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, so if you guys are putting together a podcast and you want someone objective, speaking of Charlie, he just jumped on the stream here. Doug Goodstein is here. What's up, Doug? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Chesney Claire jumped in. She says very informative. And Mr. Paul Green Dennis is here. I just met Paul earlier this afternoon. I said, hey, if you're driving by, come spend some time with us on Ringside. Thank you for joining us, Paul. I hope you're enjoying the episode. Cool. And I remember you sliced and diced Charlie's voice with yours, and you put some cool effects and stuff. And for my particular podcast, I wanted that rock radio sound, quick, not quite stimulation overload, but we wanted that hard hitting in your face, and it was a home run. And I highly recommend, if you guys are recording a podcast for yourself, or you get hired to voice a podcast for someone else and you need someone to do the editing, Ed's the man. Let me put it to you that way. You can't go wrong.
You mentioned there too, like yours is very rock radio. It's produced, but you're right. That's what you were looking for. You wanted that edge. You wanted it in your face. And I think there's such a room for that out there with podcasts for people that are doing stuff like you're doing. But what I was talking about before is like if you've got a dentist doing a podcast and then he's got lasers and all these other things going in, he's got this, all this echo radio voice coming in that does his intro. It just doesn't fit their brand. So I think it's important to match their brand with their podcast and really bring it all together for them and help them, because these guys and girls are just whatever. They're doing what they do. Let us do what we do and we'll make it work and sound good,
Perfect example is you came to the aid. We brought you on to help produce a podcast. It's soon to be released for the life insurance quarterback. He's one of the Go Get It Nation clients, and he's not exactly going to be screaming at the top of his lungs. He has different information to share. Suzanne Roberts and Ann Lucente have jumped on. Hello, ladies. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you guys. Suzanne, I got the recipe for the muffins, for the record. She was on the Discipline show with us on Monday. Thank you for sending that. So when do you think you're going to be releasing the podcast service? What's your plan? Sometime later this summer? Or?
I'm probably the next month or two. I'm trying to get all the different demos and samples done and develop the website. And I'm taking like an edgier approach to it. I'm calling it Badass Podcast Intros. I just want something that, to be, kind of just different.
You want it to be badass. Come on, man.
And the thing is, you can use that in any way you want. Like if you're a doctor, well, you know what? In your world, you're a badass doctor. Does it mean your podcast intro has to be in your face? No, but you want something because, hey, everybody at some point has got to say, you know what? That's pretty badass, So
I dig it. That's right out of the Go Get It playbook with some tough branding. I like that. Exactly. Speaking of somebody else who has tough branding, is John Grimes. He just jumped on. Hey, John. He's the voice rated E for Edge. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we'll kind of do a last call here for Ed. We're kind of coming down to the 2-minute warning here. If you have any other questions about audio production, furnishing files for auditions, sampling rates, processing, anything, we're not going to quite get into the George Whittam tech world here, but if there's some way, some information that you need, for your recording and your delivery of audio, or even how you conduct yourself in a session, now's the time to check in with Ed. This is a guy who has done it on both sides of the microphone. Here we go. Charlie says, outside of the podcast intros and outros, are you making your services available to create audio intros and outros for voiceover videos? Like maybe, Charlie Wyrock, voiceover specialist, the power of three, blah, 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 so to speak.
And if anybody's got anything audio, I do it. Like that's what it's all. That's the one thing I know, audio and voiceovers. So if anybody came to me, and I don't care who they are, anything, if you could do anything and have fun doing it, and you're good at it, and you can make money, that's what this is all about.
Love it. That's why, I trust you with anything audio. Like I said, we've sent you all kinds of stuff. I refer you out to, you just helped somebody out reorder their demo. Who was that? That was, let me think. They wanted the tracks reordered. I sent somebody over to you to do that. I can't remember. It escapes me.
It's a good problem to have, being so busy where I forget certain projects. It's a good problem to have. But then again, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just.
Oh, here it was. David Inahosa. He just jumped in there. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, from Veteran VO. Please accept that plug as part of my apology for forgetting your name, Dave.
That's right. Rearranging the order of the demo. Yeah, that's right.
He got some advice from someone in his network to say, hey, we think you should reorder your demo. And David and I were talking on a coaching call. I said, call Ed, tell him what you want. And it's like before, he could even get the request out of his mouth, you probably had the production done. It was amazing. Yeah,
it was pretty quick. I think I had, some free time. So I was like, let me crank this out now for this guy. Yeah, that was cool.
Another thing, and I'll tee this up real quick because I know we're coming down the home stretch here. When you were doing more of your own promotional content, you did a lot of video editing.
Yeah.
And that wasn't your thing to begin with. You kind of were self-taught with that?
Yeah. It's funny. I produce video promos, but I don't edit them. I just produce and assemble them for for the TV network. But yeah, I was doing my own content videos. So they took me probably 5 times longer than they would take somebody that knows what they're doing, but I learned a lot from it. And it's the same concept as audio. It's just there's video with it, so once you learn the basic editing and you figure out the program, my thing would just be to find the simplest program. If you're not, and there's so many out there now, you're not stuck with like this big, huge program.
Sure. Yeah. But it's good to have that in your repertoire, especially as you're marketing yourself, to be able to have that extra skill.
Yeah. And I've actually done a few things, again, not professional grade, but people that are just like, hey, can you put this video together? And to them, it's professional. They're like, oh, wow, okay, now I got this video to go with the voiceover and the audio. Yeah, so you can become a one-stop shop for a lot of these different people. Yeah.
John Grimes has a question for you, Ed. He says, what do you think is the most important thing to keeping your workflow productive?
Productive or creative? Like just meaning?
I guess being organized or staying on task or scheduling or...
That I'm not good to ask that one. No, the scheduling, yes. But the organize, I'm using a new program that I just found, or a web-based program. It's called ClickUp.com. I just started on there, and it's to-do lists, it's time management. And I never thought I would do that. Like I was always like, just my sticky notes, whatever. And I'm old school. I write everything down. I still keep.
Wait, stop the presses. Say that again.
Yeah, I always got. Yeah, this
slowly.
We got all these right. Yeah.
He writes things down, people, in a notebook with a pen.
I do. It's easier if you just do that. Yeah. And then I have backup if I forget, or even if my notes, I'm like, what is it? Wait, I look back at that. I was like, oh crap, I wrote it down wrong over here. That's right. I think the best thing I've started to do recently was just do things as soon as I have the opportunity to do them, instead of saying, well, that one's not due till Friday and this one's due tomorrow. I'll do it depending on when they came in. And that way I just get them off my plate, and it's less stressful, and less stress means more creativity in my world. So
totally. Couple of questions from Suzanne Roberts. The first is, are those custom audio tiles behind you?
Yes, they are. I took a lot of my favorite bands from move out of the way here. Yeah, see right there, they got Pink Floyd, AC/DC's up there, Led Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses. Yeah, what I did was I ordered this. I found the tiles or the audio images, or the album cover images online, the highest quality ones, and I had them printed on Gator board, which is like 1/4 inch thick, and I put those in between the soundproofing. So I wish I could take you in my sound booth. I've got more of my favorites in there. That's pretty. That's the one thing that people like when they come in there. They're like, "What in the hell is this?" I was like, "It's my favorite album."
I see "Highway to Hell" from AC/DC and "Appetite for Destruction." Say no more. I listened to both in the gym this morning, so that was awesome.
Oh wait, we got right there is "Injustice for All" too. Metallica.
Oh yeah, a little Metallica. There you go. Yeah. We're definitely cut from the same cloth. And Suzanne's other question is what's your favorite Pro Tools shortcut key?
Well, it was Command S forever, but now it automatically saves. But it used to be Command S because you'd work, hours on something, and then Pro Tools back in the day would just lose it. Favorite Pro Tools shortcut? Probably just the B, just for break. Like, anywhere you are, just B. Or I like to just highlight across and then hit B, and it just separates everything. I use that one a lot. And I edit a lot in shuffle mode. If I'm just doing voiceover, I just edit in shuffle mode because it just shuffles over quick. So, and I know that might be, I don't know. I don't know if that helps, but that was a tough one. I would like to have thought about that one because I use a lot of shortcuts. Yeah.
Have you used any other audio editing programs besides Pro Tools, or has it been exclusively Pro Tools?
Back in the day, like some radio stations, I would go there when I got hired, and within like 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, you have to get me Pro Tools. You just have to. Because back then Pro Tools was $4,000. I wasn't buying not on a radio salary,
Yeah.
Now you can get it for hardly anything, and it sounds 10 times better. But no, I used Audition just to help other people. I've learned it so that I could, because that's I think a free one. Adobe Audition, is that a free one? I don't know, but no, not really. I don't know the other ones that well.
Mandy Fisher. Hey, Mandy, thank you for your question. She asked, what's your best piece of marketing advice for cold leads?
Oh,
I have an answer to this question.
Yeah, let Corey answer that. Honestly, I would love to help you there, but I'm not good with cold leads. That is probably my weakness.
So, Mandy, you open this door, I'm going to walk through it. My best piece of marketing advice for cold leads is to hire me.
Yeah, that's helped me.
And I can help you with that. There's several different things you can be doing with that, Mandy. But the first thing is you got to learn how to warm them up first. No lead should be ice cold. You should cultivate your relationship with them first. And that way the ask for business comes to you. You don't have to make the ask. And that's a process. But
can I tell you one thing real quick? Whether it be a cold lead or I think your first introduction to those people, and I like it myself when I get them, and I do it as well, is just don't sound too businessy. Just sound real. Even like if it's if I'm sending somebody something like, hey man, what I use the terms I talk in, and if they don't necessarily like that, then I probably won't miss. I hate to say that, but I would love their business, but I like to just be real. Like instead of making it super formal, really. And what I learned from Corey was to keep things short and, not be long with your first email or second email, but also just being real, not super formal, loose. I mean, I love it when I get things, because as soon as I start reading something that sounds a little written or pre-thought, thought out too much, I think, too commercially, too selly.
Template.
Template. Yeah. And, it's like, nah, just be real. That's
nice. Nice. Nick Middlecoff's in the house from Whiskey VO, and he says, cheers. He's got the cool little Emojo logo. My man, good job. Thank you for doing that, Nick. He's proven he's doing homework.
I like that name, Whiskey VO.
Yeah, he's a whiskey guy, so it was a perfect fit for him. It worked out really well. You're welcome, Mandy. And yes, that was a great question that Mandy asked Paul, for sure. So any parting shots, Ed, for Go Get It Nation as they tackle their auditions, as they tackle their clients and their sessions, their marketing? One last pearl of wisdom you think you can share with the group?
Yeah. go back and listen to every audition the next day or 2 days later. I guarantee you probably won't like it, and you'll realize things that you could have done better. And I don't think that that's a slam on you or the voice person themselves. It's just by doing that, you can gauge on your next audition for someone else. Maybe, all right, let me do this a little differently, because every time I think I've nailed it, or I think at least I'm like, all right, I know I'm probably in the running. If I listen back the next day, it is discouraging, but you got to take that. You got to take the good with the bad too, because when I do go back and listen to a lot of things, I was like, oh man, that's not as good as I thought it was. And I used to look at that as a downfall and be like, I'm so down on myself all the time. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I wasn't bad. It's just I knew I could be better. So by going back and listening to it, would just kind of help me course correct from time to time. Didn't help me with that particular audition, but it maybe helped me with the one that I did the following day for someone else.
So every audition is basically a learning opportunity, if you think of it that way.
As many as you can, even if you don't think you have it, do it. Don't even send it to, like, if you're not even, say they're looking for a female and you're a guy, do the audition anyway. Just record it and just do it. Don't send it, but I mean, do it, practice it, because I really think that's made a huge difference in me over the past 2 or 3 years, is really putting the pedal to the metal and doing as many auditions as I could. I mean, so many that there was a point where I was like, it didn't pay off. What am I doing? But it did pay off. It has in a different way. Yeah, not monetarily, but it is now monetarily. You threw it. Yeah, weird. So yeah, so just experience, do it as much as you can. Yep.
Scott Garber says he can't wait to rewatch this one. He's jumping on a little late, and he's pumped to hear your story. Scott, you're going to love this episode. Me and Ed are old dogs. We've known each other for a long time and been in the trenches in all sorts of ways together. And there's going to be lots of stuff you'll be able to glean from that. And Hadi Hajar makes a joke about how many actually like listening to the sound of their own voice. But just remember, you're learning. You got to be able to self-assess. It helps to have an objective opinion from a coach or an agent or something. But, you got to be able to – it's almost like an athlete's got to know how their body moves in space to be able to get better at throwing or hitting or catching or running, whatever it is. It's the same thing when you're doing your auditions, your craft. Yep. Steve Tardio says, great advice all over this Ringside. And, of course, may the 4th be with you all, right? Oh. And that's Steve's joke. It's been all over the internet today. I've also seen Enjoy Tomorrow. It's Revenge of the 5th.
Yeah.
But it's also Cinco de Mayo tomorrow. If anybody's hanging out, be careful. Don't drink and drive, but have one for me. Ed, if people want to get in touch with you and check out some of your work, check out your demos, where's the best place they can find you?
My website has a lot of stuff up there. It's edbishopvoiceovers.com. And if anybody's interested in the intros thing, that's going to be badasspodcastintros.com. And that's up now, but it's just a coming soon type of thing. But you want to check in down the road, please. I would love to hear from anybody. And if you have any questions, you can email me at bishopvoiceovers.com, or that pretty much anywhere on Instagram, any of those, bishopvoiceovers.com. Yeah. And man, I love this stuff. So anybody has any questions, or even if you want to just tell me some funny stories about similar things you've done, I'm into it. So
I can't stress you guys enough. Go Get It Nation. Ed is a great guy to network with. He is a good guy to know. He's a good guy to have in your corner. He's, wired in. He's been doing it for a while. He knows production. He knows the VO game. He's been there, done that, and he's a friend of mine, damn it. And I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful that you dedicated, here we are almost 45 minutes on Ringside together, and I'm sure we could keep going. So there's plenty more good information to share. You've been more than generous with your time. Thank you for going Ringside today, Ed.
No problem, man. If you ever want me back, I'll be back. I love this stuff.
Well, I'm sure we'll be making that happen, and we'll Go Get It Nation. I will attempt to jump back on Clubhouse again. I'll fire up that room again. We'll see what happens. If I keep having tech difficulties, who knows? Maybe I got to get a new cell phone. I don't know what's going on. But, Ed, thank you so much. Go Get It Nation. We'll see you next week on Ringside. Let's go get it.
Go get it.
Go get it.
Yeah.